Hi guys, bonjour, bonsoir. I'm back with my beautiful client and her beautiful hair. We are doing the second retwist of her lock journey. If you guys have not seen the first retwist, go back and watch it so you can get some context. But this is her hair, um, pretty much what it went through since the last time we retwisted. And you guys can see her budding. You guys can see her coils and what they look like now at 2 months. And you can see like there's several areas of budding in that one. So first thing I do, as always, I wash, and her first wash is also in the very first retwist video. You guys can go see that. When it comes to starter locks, a lot of people are scared to wash. I've had clients come in and say their previous stylist told them not to wash for X amount of months, and if I cannot wash the hair, it's just I don't know, I don't feel right. And ethically, it's not right to not wash the hair, so you have to wash your locks. No matter what stage, you should be able to wash your locks. I understand some people have wet washing, and that's okay. Find ways to mitigate the hesitation, but still find a way to wash your locks, or find a interval that works for you. Most of my clients wash once per month. I myself, when I had locks, used to wash once every 2 weeks. So it's all about what works for you and your hair, and how your hair secretes the oils, and your hair type, your scalp conditions. All of that matters when you're deciding how often to wash and how often to get maintenance. Alrighty, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing and what is my thought process when I do retwist starter locks or baby locks. Basically, my thought process is to reinforce the new and budding lock. So we did the coils, and then that first wash was to pretty much start the foundation. That's why the wash is important, because your hair starts gathering and it starts naturally coiling upon itself. And it is the job of the stylist, or if you're doing your own hair, to reinforce what it is the results you're trying to get. So if you have to carve out parts that have been matted together in the wash, that's what you have to do. If you have to palm roll and wrap hair around, that's what you have to do. Now, there are many methods out here now where you can instant lock, you can use a crochet tool to pull the hair into the lock, you can do all of that. But some people still want to do it the traditional way, and that's okay. And there's beauty in doing it the traditional way and going through the stages and letting your hair do its thing. So basically, and I forgot to mention, I'm not using gel for her hair because it's just not necessary, and she doesn't really care to use gel in her hair. She's really trying to avoid any type of buildup. So for this particular client, we're not using gel. If you guys have not seen the starter lock video and retwist video, go back and watch that. I'll probably make a whole playlist for her, because I'll be updating you guys on her hair per you all's request. But basically, I do root to tip, and sometimes I use a comb, sometimes I don't. But when the locks are really new, I use a comb. Some people do not like using a comb, but I use a comb just to make sure I'm reinforcing those parts. If there are parts that need to be recarved out, that's what I do, and that is the job of you. Once again, to reiterate, you or the stylist doing your hair, to reinforce your parts and get your hair back to what you all are trying to achieve. So once her hair matures, even within maybe 6 months or so, I probably will not need a comb anymore, because her hair will have been pretty much on its way to being nice and trained as far as the parts and the new growth. So a comb won't really be necessary in the later stages, but right now I use it to reinforce everything. So clip placement. Here in the beginning, clip placement is really, really important. One thing that I would see, or people would ask me about, is um, clipping at the root. So you see where I'm twisting right now, where the new growth meets the budding parts. Some people will clip right at that new growth, right where that new growth is, but it's really best to clip either toward the very end, the last 1/3 of the length of the locks, or even toward all the way down the length of the locks if you can, or if you feel more comfortable doing that. But clipping at the root doesn't really reinforce much with the shaft of the locks. Clipping at the root just makes sure the roots are secure and they stay neat, but it doesn't really reinforce anything. I'm also going to point out that I'm not twisting it tight because that is not necessary really to reinforce the locks. It's not necessary to twist it tight. So her hair is fine. It may look, I've had a lot of people say things look tight when they really aren't. It's just fine hair being pulled or being swept up. It can look tight when it's really not. So these are not tight at all. There's no point in doing them tight. The tightness does not help it lock. So that's why I say it's unnecessary. But as you can see, I'm just using the comb to gather those hairs and using the comb to pull hairs that don't belong in that section, and making sure that I wrap the hair all the way around the lock, all the way down the lock, and then I palm roll on top of that, and then I clip it most of the way down. And I'm going to keep doing this to her whole entire head. It is super, super simple to retwist baby locks. It's just, some people are not up for the challenge, especially when you have a lot of locks to begin with. It can be a challenge to retwist baby locks because you really have to take care of each lock. And everybody's kind of different. Some people have their own methods of retwisting baby locks, and there's so many ways to do one thing, but this is just how I do it. I keep it really simple. I've seen the instant, it's called the instant lock method, but it's pretty much where the stylist will put the lock in their palm and just kind of like roll the lock in their palm, in one palm. I'm sure you guys have seen it on Instagram, but I'm sure that method works well too, but I just stick to traditional palm rolling and twisting the root and wrapping the locks around, wrapping the hair around the lock. And yeah, that's it. That's all I'm pretty much doing here. I like to start from the very back and then work my way to each side and then have just the crown left so I can really focus on the crown. And then once I get to the crown, I go in on I leave the edges out because I want to really look at the edges, make sure I reevaluate them, make sure the parts are big enough, because as you will notice in her hair or anyone with locks that doesn't have like super dense hair all over their head, the parts in the front will always appear bigger because of the amount of hair per square inch on everybody's head. In the front, it's always less hair per square inch. So you will need bigger parts to keep healthy locks and keep this just about the same size throughout the head. So around the perimeter, the edges and the back, the locks usually are a little bit bigger if you don't have a full head of the same density, which is not very common. And here I am at the crown and around the smiley area. The smiley area is where like you have the front and then you have the two sides where it's really, really like immature hairs there. And those are the areas that are kind of tricky because you have to part in a strategic way that the locks will not become weak or thin out. Same thing that you have to do with the edges pretty much. Some people don't have that smiley area, some people do. All right, and I'm just spraying water to keep the hair moisturized and damp because you don't want to retwist dry hair. And this is what I was saying about the edges. I do them very last so I can see if I need to repart, what needs to go where, what works best where. And here are her edges. She went under the dryer for about 45 minutes to an hour. And this is her result of her second retwist. I almost said very second retwist. What? Of her second retwist. Her locks are so cute, and there's usually always a little bit of movement when you get your locks freshly retwisted, or your baby locks freshly retwisted, and then they're gonna go through and cycle again. Like, locking is a cycle, it's a process that is pretty much never ending as long as you keep your locks. Her roots will always grow out, puff up, and will have to be maintained if that is what she so chooses. All right, thank you guys for watching. That's all for her second retwist, and I will see you guys in the next video.